for that vote against Eric Holder tomorrow relies on a conspiracy theory cooked up, frankly, by the militia blogger who told people to go break the windows of Democratic Party offices after health reform passed in the first place. And the rest of the explanation for why they are pursuing this fast and furious vote tomorrow, the part not linked to the conspiracy theory, seems to have just fallen all the way apart. If you want to experience in your home an appropriate metaphor for what just happened to this story in politics, what you should do is this. Go to your kitchen, take your silverware drawer out of the cabinet, hold it over your head, and then turn it upside down and shake it. That sharp, clattering disaster in your kitchen is an appropriate metaphor for what has just become of the Fast and Furious scandal in the House of Representatives. Joining us now is Catherine Eban. She's a Forbes magazine contributor, and she's the author of the article, The Truth About the Fast and Furious Scandal. Ms. Eban, thank you very much for being here. I'm sure you've been very much in demand today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
You know a lot more about this than I do. I've been covering it for a few days. You've done a ton of reporting on this. Can you tell me what I got wrong in my description there, if I messed anything up?
The only thing you got wrong is that I'm a contributor for Fortune, not Forbes.
Did I say Forbes?
And everything else that you said is absolutely accurate.
That's a very humiliating thing to have gotten wrong. I hereby quit. I'm sorry.
Please don't.
Did agents intentionally walk guns across the border? You tell the story of one instance, one gun, or a handful of guns in that one instance being walked, but that was not part of the Fast and Furious program.
No. And let's set that aside for a moment. In the Fast and Furious case, which was one investigation into a group of straw purchasers, there was no operational tactic by ATF to walk guns. What there was a protracted struggle to arrest kids not even old enough to buy beer, who were obviously straw purchasers. And there was a continual struggle with prosecutors because as they interpreted the laws, the sales were legal, the transfers were legal, and the agents did not have grounds to make seizures or arrests.
You write about some sort of incredible anecdotal stories about these straw purchasers. A guy who's on food stamps, so obviously a low-income person, a person low income enough to qualify to be on food stamps, nevertheless spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on weaponry. A young, unemployed person spending 5 figures on a .50 caliber sniper rifle on a tripod. Is it illegal to be a straw purchaser? And if it is illegal, why didn't those people get arrested? It seems pretty clear.
That's a great question. It is illegal to be a straw purchaser, but how do you make that case? Prosecutors made it almost impossible to make those arrests and to seize those guns. They were continually determining in their analysis of the law that the sales and the transfers were legal. ATF did not agree. There is copious evidence that ATF agents demanded, we want to seize these guns, we want to make these arrests, but prosecutors blocked them. Now, we are a nation of laws. ATF agents cannot decide that they're going to make arrests or seize guns without prosecutors okay. So if they've asked and prosecutors have answered and the answer is no, that's it.
Is this a prosecutor's scandal? Were the prosecutors' decisions in these cases wild departures from the law? Were they making prosecutorial discretion decisions that were wildly incompatible with what had previously been done in these jurisdictions, or are the gun laws just really, really lax?
That is a really hard question to answer, and I spent a lot of time and energy in my reporting trying to determine just that. You know, there is enormous differences in prosecution styles, in prosecutorial interpretation of laws in each jurisdiction. Now, Dave Voth, the group supervisor of Phoenix Group 7, in his frustration and despair, was actually writing to prosecutors in other jurisdictions. I mean, they were going as far as New York to see if they could find prosecutors who would take these cases. And that was described in some congressional testimony by an ATF agent named Pete Forcelli. So it's very hard to say. You know, I think what you have is a perfect storm of incredibly weak laws in Arizona, prosecutors who did not seem particularly eager to enforce the law, and an absolute river of iron onslaught of guns being purchased and pouring across the border. I mean, just to put this in perspective, in Arizona, where you have 853 licensed firearms dealers in Maricopa County, here's what passes for best business practices. There's a firearms dealer who has a note on his door which says 1 AK-47 per customer per day. Those are the limits that are being set by responsible gun dealers. Otherwise, it's perfectly acceptable for an 18-year-old kid to go into a store, put down cash, and buy 50 AK-47s.
To the bottom line here in terms of the way the mainstream media is going to cover this vote tomorrow, the way that this is shorthanded by every reputable journalistic institution in the country is essentially a woebegone program that in which ATF agents knowingly let illegal guns walk. According to your reporting, that is that fundamental basic description of this program, and therefore this scandal is untrue, and people should instead describe it how?
People need to describe this as a very tough effort to crack down on straw purchasers and seize guns that they were unable to do for an array of reasons. And guns, therefore, went across the border and reached criminals.
Catherine Eben, Fortune magazine contributor, investigative reporter, who really did just blow this totally out of the water today, the day before this vote in the House. Thank you for being here, and I'm sorry again for screwing up your introduction and for having a coughing fit that you had to sit through. That was really unwelcoming, and I won't do it again.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Tonight for the interview, Massachusetts Senate candidate Elizabeth Warren is here. And best new thing in the world today has been plucked from the infinite vastness of the internet machine to be duly trumpeted. We did a good thing. We didn't really mean to, but it ended up being a good deed. And that's the best new thing in the world today. That's coming up.